The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Resolute. Admiral Sunwoo stood there alone, watching the massive Galactic Council station grow larger through the window. It was a structure so big that it made Earth's largest space stations look like toys. Millions of beings from thousands of species lived and worked inside those metal walls. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for only 12 years. In a galaxy where some civilizations were millions of years old, humans were like babies taking their first steps. Many species looked down on them. Some ignored them completely. But humanity had worked hard to earn respect, and today was supposed to be another step forward. Ambassador Jisoo waited near the docking bay with her small team. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and calm eyes. Before first contact with aliens, she had spent 20 years as a diplomat for the United Nations. Now she represented all of Earth. It was a heavy responsibility, but she carried it well. Lieutenant Taiwu stood beside her, holding a datapad with their presentation materials. He was young and eager, barely 30 years old. This was his first major council session. "Are you nervous?" Jisoo asked him quietly. "A little," he admitted. "There will be thousands of species watching us." Jisoo smiled softly. "Just remember why we are here. We are asking for new trade routes. It is a simple request. Nothing controversial." The ship finished docking with a gentle bump. Admiral Sunwoo joined them as the doors opened. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious face. His uniform was decorated with medals from his 30 years of service. "The council chamber is ready for us," he said. "Security reports no problems." Jisoo nodded. "Then let us go make history." They walked through the station's long corridors. Aliens of every shape and size passed them. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some floated in special gravity bubbles because they came from worlds with different atmospheres. A few looked at the humans with curiosity. Most did not look at all. The council chamber was enormous. It was shaped like a giant bowl with thousands of seats rising up in circles around the central platform. Each seat belonged to a different species. Screens floated everywhere, translating speeches into countless languages. Jisoo walked to the central platform with confidence. She had done this many times before, but today felt different somehow. There was a strange tension in the air that she could not explain. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Humanity comes before you today with a simple proposal. We wish to establish new trade routes through the Outer Rim territories. This will benefit not only Earth, but also the 17 species who have already expressed interest in partnership." She presented data showing economic projections. She showed maps of the proposed routes. She explained how everyone would profit from increased trade. It was a good presentation, clear and logical. When she finished, there was polite silence. A few species signaled their approval. Everything seemed to be going well. Then Councilman Braxis stood up. He was of Orth, a species known for their military strength and aggressive nature. His skin was gray and covered in small scales. His eyes were yellow and cold like a snake's. The Vorath Dominion controlled over 200 star systems, and Braxis was one of their most powerful leaders. "I must speak," he announced, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. The High Chancellor, an ancient being named Morix with dozens of eyes, gestured for him to continue. Braxis walked down toward the central platform. Each step was slow and deliberate. He stopped just a few meters from Jisoo and looked at her with obvious disgust. "These humans," he said, speaking to the entire council but staring at Jisoo, "are a problem that this council refuses to address." Jisoo kept her face calm. "Does the councilman have concerns about our trade proposal?" "I have concerns about your entire species," Braxis replied. "You breed like insects. You spread like disease. In just 12 years, you have established colonies in 40 systems. 40. Species that have been in this council for 10,000 years control fewer worlds than you. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some aliens seemed to agree with Braxis. Others looked uncomfortable. Humanity follows all council regulations regarding expansion, Jisoo said calmly. We have broken no laws. Laws. Braxis laughed, a harsh and ugly sound. You hide behind laws while you infect the galaxy with your presence. I have studied your history, human. Your species does nothing but fight and consume and destroy. You turned your own planet into a wasteland before you learned to control yourselves. And now you want more territory? More resources? More power? Lieutenant. Taiwu stepped forward angrily, but Jisoo raised her hand to stop him. What exactly is the councilman suggesting? She asked, her voice still steady. Braxis smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I am suggesting that this council take action before it is too late. Quarantine Earth. Restrict human travel. Better yet, sterilize their planet before they become a true threat to galactic civilization. The chamber exploded in noise. Some species shouted in protest. Others cheered. Most simply watched in shock. Is that an official threat against a member species? Jisoo asked. Her voice was quiet now, but somehow it cut through all the noise. Braxis leaned closer to her. Consider it a warning, vermin. My fleet alone could reduce your primitive world to ash in a matter of hours. You have no real military. You have no OIs who would die for you. You are nothing but clever animals who learned to build spaceships. Remember your place. He turned and walked back to his seat. The chamber slowly grew quiet again. High Chancellor Morix cleared his throat. Does any other member wish to speak on this matter? Silence. Complete and total silence. Jisoo looked around the chamber. Thousands of species sat there, and not one of them stood up to defend humanity. Not one of them condemned what Braxis had said. Some looked away when her eyes met theirs. Others simply stared with cold indifference. I see, she said softly. Then louder. Humanity withdraws its trade proposal. We will trouble this council no further today. She walked out of the chamber with Admiral Sunwoo and Lieutenant Taiwu following close behind. None of them spoke until they reached their shuttle. That was a declaration of intent to commit genocide, Taiwu said, his voice shaking with anger. And nobody said anything. Nobody? They are afraid of the Varath, Sunwoo said grimly. Or they agree with them. Jisoo sat down heavily. For the first time, she looked tired. Old, but when she raised her head, her eyes were not sad. They were hard like steel. Contact Earth Command, she said to Sunwoo. Tell them exactly what happened, every word. And our response? The Admiral asked. Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. Through the shuttle window, she could see the council station growing smaller as they flew away. Humanity has been insulted before, she finally said. We have been conquered, enslaved, and nearly destroyed many times throughout our history. But we are still here. We always survive. And we always remember those who wished us harm. She turned to face both men. Tell Earth Command that we were threatened with extinction today. Tell them that not one species in this galaxy stood up for us. And tell them that humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And humanity will have its answer. The shuttle flew through the darkness of space, carrying 3 humans back toward their distant home. Behind them, the galaxy continued on as if nothing had happened. But something had changed, something important. The humans knew it, even if no one else did yet. War was coming. And this time, humanity would not be the victim. 6 months passed after the incident at the Galactic Council. To the rest of the galaxy, it seemed like humanity had accepted their humiliation quietly. Human ships still traveled through space. Human merchants still traded at alien stations. Human diplomats still attended minor council meetings with polite smiles on their faces. But the galaxy did not know what was happening on Earth. General Moran stood in the war room deep beneath the mountains of Korea. She was a small woman, barely 160 centimeters tall, but she commanded more respect than anyone else in the room. Her eyes were sharp and missed nothing. Her voice was soft but carried absolute authority. "Show me the progress," she ordered. Screens around the room lit up with images from across the solar system. The lunar shipyards were working day and night, building warships faster than ever before in human history. The Mars facilities were producing weapons and ammunition by the millions. The asteroid belt factories were mining resources at triple their normal rate. "Production is ahead of schedule by 12%, reported Colonel Yuna, Moran's second in command. She was younger than the general, but just as fierce. "The first wave of Retribution-class dreadnoughts will be ready in 3 months. Moran nodded slowly. "And the new fighters?" "Captain Do-Yun reports that Black Star Squadron has received their upgraded ships. They are training on Titan right now." "Good. What about intelligence?" Director Haniel stepped forward. He was a thin man with glasses and a quiet voice. He ran Earth's intelligence network across the galaxy, and his spies had been very busy. "We have complete information on Varathus Prime," he said, bringing up a holographic map of the Varth home system. "Their defense grid, their fleet positions, their communication networks, everything." He pointed to different locations on the map as he spoke. "The planet is protected by 300 orbital defense platforms and a fleet of approximately 200 warships. Their shields are powered by 4 generators on the surface, here, here, and here. If we can disable those generators, their entire defense grid goes dark." "That is still a lot of firepower," General Moran observed. "It is," Haniel agreed. "But they are overconfident. They believe no species would dare attack them. Their patrol schedules are predictable. Their response times are slow. And most importantly, Councilman Braxis keeps his best ships close to his palace instead of deploying them strategically." Moran allowed herself a small smile. Arrogance is always a weakness. On the other side of Earth, in his secret laboratory hidden beneath the ocean, Dr. Yunji was working on something that would change the nature of space warfare forever. She called it the Prometheus device. It was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not shoot bullets or fire missiles. Instead, it released a pulse of quantum energy that disrupted all electronic systems within a specific range. "One pulse," she explained to Ambassador Jisoo during a video call, "and every shield generator, every weapons platform, every communication system in a 50-kilometer radius simply stops working. No explosions, no destruction, just silence." Jisoo leaned forward with interest. "How long does the effect last?" "Approximately 15 minutes. After that, systems begin to reboot. But 15 minutes is more than enough time for our forces to establish control." "Side effects?" Yunji hesitated. "The pulse does not distinguish between military and civilian systems. Hospitals, life support, transportation, everything goes dark at the same time. There will be chaos." Jisoo was quiet for a moment. "Can we minimize civilian casualties? If we are precise about our targets and quick about our operation, yes. But there will be some deaths. There is no way to avoid it completely." The ambassador closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her face showed nothing but determination. "War always has costs. We did not choose this fight, but we will finish it." Far from Earth, on the frozen moon of Titan, Captain Do-Hyun pushed his pilots harder than they had ever been pushed before. Again, he shouted as the squadron completed another simulated attack run. "Your approach angle was 2 degrees off. In real combat, that mistake kills you." His pilots were the best humanity had to offer. Men and women selected from millions of applicants, trained for years in the most demanding programs Earth could design. They flew ships that did not officially exist, using tactics that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. "Sir," one of his lieutenants asked during a break, "what exactly are we training for?" "Command has not told us anything." Dahyun looked at his young pilot. The man was talented but inexperienced. He had never seen real combat. None of them had. "We are training to do something that has never been done before," Dahyun said carefully. "To strike at the heart of an enemy that believes they are untouchable. To show the galaxy that humanity is not prey." "The Vorath?" Dahyun nodded slowly. "You heard what Councilman Braxis said about us. Vermin, insects, animals. He threatened to sterilize our planet. And the galaxy just watched. So we are going to war? We are going to teach them a lesson they will never forget." 3 months later, Ambassador Jisoo returned to the Galactic Council. This time, she came alone. The chamber was as crowded as before. Councilman Braxis sat in his usual place, surrounded by his advisors. When he saw Jisoo enter, he laughed out loud. "The vermin returns," he announced to everyone nearby. "Have you come to beg for mercy?" Jisoo walked to the center of the chamber with perfect calm. She waited until the room grew quiet before she spoke. "I come before this council with a simple request," she said. 6 months ago, Councilman Braxis of the Vorath Dominion publicly threatened to sterilize Earth and called humanity vermin. I asked that he formally retract his statements and apologize. The chamber erupted in laughter. Braxis laughed loudest of all. "Apologize?" He roared. "To you? I would sooner apologize to the bacteria living in my waste facilities." More laughter. Jisoo did not react. She simply waited. "You are even more foolish than I thought," Braxis continued, standing up from his seat. "Coming here alone, making demands. Do you not understand your position? Your species is nothing. Less than nothing. Return to your mudball planet and pray that I am too busy to notice you exist. So you refuse to apologize?" Jisoo asked calmly. "I refuse to even acknowledge that you deserve an apology. Now leave before I lose my patience." Jisoo nodded slowly. She turned and looked around the entire chamber, meeting the eyes of as many species as she could. "Let the record show," she said clearly, "that humanity came to this council seeking peace. We asked only for words and apology for threats made against our people. We were refused." She paused. "Let the record also show that what happens next is the consequence of that refusal." She began walking toward the exit. Braxis called after her mockingly. "What happens next? Are you threatening us now, little vermin? What could your pathetic species possibly do?" Jisoo stopped at the door. She turned her head slightly, just enough to look at him over her shoulder. "You will find out soon enough, Councilman. Humanity offered you peace. You chose something else. Remember that in the days to come." She left the chamber. The galaxy continued to laugh at the foolish humans who dared to make threats against the mighty Vorath. They would not be laughing much longer. Back on Earth, General Myrane received word that diplomacy had failed. She had expected this. In fact, she had planned for it. She picked up her communicator and spoke a single sentence. Just 5 words that would change history forever. "Begin Operation Falling Thunder." Across the solar system, engines began to warm up. Soldiers checked their weapons one final time. Pilots climbed into their cockpits with quiet determination. The fleet that humanity had been building in secret began to move toward Vorath Space. Councilman Braxis had called humanity vermin. He had threatened their children and laughed at their request for peace. Now, he would learn what humanity did to those who threatened their home. The hunt had begun. The human fleet traveled through hyperspace for 3 days. 200 warships moved in perfect formation, their crews silent and focused. This was the largest military operation in human history, and every person aboard understood what was at stake. Admiral Sunwoo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the flagship dreadnought. It was a massive ship, nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Around him, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "How much longer until we reach the Varathis system?" he asked. "4 hours, Admiral," replied his navigation officer. Sunwoo nodded. He had not slept in 2 days. None of the senior officers had. There was too much to do, too much to check, too much that could go wrong. Captain Do-hyun's voice came through the communication system from the fighter bay. "Black Star Squadron is ready, Admiral. All pilots are in position." "Good. Remember the plan. Precision and speed. We hit hard and we hit fast." "Understood, sir." "We will not fail." In another part of the fleet, Colonel Yuna briefed her ground forces one final time. 5,000 soldiers sat in the cargo holds of troop transports, their faces painted in camouflage, their weapons loaded and ready. "Our target is Councilman Braxis himself," she told them. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to capture one man and bring him to justice. But if anyone tries to stop us, we show them what humanity is made of." The soldiers responded with a single word, spoken together: victory. Dr. Yoonji sat alone in a small room aboard a science vessel at the center of the fleet. The Prometheus device was next to her, a cylinder about 2 meters tall, humming softly with contained energy. She had spent 5 years building this machine. Today she would finally see if it worked. Her communicator beeped. It was Ambassador Jisoo calling from Earth. "How are you feeling, Doctor?" Yoonji laughed nervously, terrified. "What if it does not work? What if I made a mistake in my calculations? What if, Yoonji," Jisoo interrupted gently. "You are the most brilliant scientist Earth has ever produced. Your device will work. I believe in you." "Thank you, Ambassador." "Thank me after we win." The hours passed slowly. Soldiers checked their equipment again and again. Pilots reviewed their flight paths. Officers studied maps of the Varathis system until they could see them with their eyes closed. Then the moment arrived. "Exiting hyperspace in 10 seconds, announced the navigation officer. 9, 8, 7. Admiral Sunwoo gripped the railing in front of him. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. 3, 2, 1. Exit. The stars stopped streaking past the windows. The Varathis system appeared before them, a yellow sun surrounded by 12 planets. And directly ahead, the blue-green world of Varathis Prime, home to 8 billion Vorath and their arrogant leader. "All ships, report status," Sunwoo ordered, one by one. The fleet commanders confirmed they were in position. 200 warships, arranged in a perfect crescent formation, faced the heart of the Vorath Dominion. "Sir," the sensor officer said urgently, "enemy fleet is scrambling. They detected our arrival." Sunwoo watched the tactical display. Red dots were appearing around Varathis Prime as Vorath warships activated their engines and turned toward the human fleet. "How many?" "Approximately 180 ships, sir, plus the orbital defense platforms." "They outnumber us," observed a young lieutenant nearby. Sunwoo allowed himself a small smile. "Numbers mean nothing if their defenses are down. Dr. Yoonji, are you ready?" Yoonji's voice came through clearly. "The Prometheus device is charged and ready, Admiral. Fire when you have a clear shot." The science vessel moved forward, protected by a ring of destroyers. The Vorath fleet was approaching fast, their weapons charging. In moments, they would be in firing range. "Target acquired," Yoonji announced. "Firing Prometheus device now." A pulse of invisible energy erupted from the science vessel. It traveled at the speed of light, washing over Varfis Prime in less than a second. And then something amazing happened. Every light on the planet flickered and died. Every orbital platform went dark. Every Vorath warship suddenly lost power, their engines cutting out, their weapons going offline, their crews screaming in confusion. It worked, Yunji whispered in disbelief. It actually worked. Admiral Sunwoo did not waste a second. All ships, attack! Black Star Squadron, you are clear to engage. The human fleet surged forward. Fighters launched from carrier bays like swarms of angry wasps. The massive dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that turned the darkness of space into a storm of light and destruction. The Vorath could not fight back. Their ships drifted helplessly, unable to raise shields or fire weapons. Human fighters flew between them, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. They were not trying to kill, they were trying to disable. Captain Do-hyun led his squadron toward the orbital defense platforms. Each platform was the size of a small city, bristling with guns that could destroy a cruiser in a single shot. But with no power, they were just floating metal. Black Star Squadron, target the communication array, Do-hyun ordered. We need to cut Braxis off from his allies. His pilots followed him through a maze of dead platforms and drifting ships. The communication array was a massive structure orbiting directly above the Vorath capital city. 20 synchronized hits from Black Star fighters turned it into scrap metal. Communication array destroyed, Do-hyun reported. Varathis Prime is isolated. Excellent work, Captain. Colonel Yuna, you are clear to begin ground assault. The troop transports descended through the atmosphere. Without orbital defenses to stop them, they faced no resistance. They landed in a perfect ring around the capital city, and 5,000 human soldiers poured out onto alien soil. Colonel Yuna led from the front, as she always did. Her boots touched the ground of Varathis Prime, and she took a moment to look around. The Vorath civilians were running in panic, their technology useless. Their world suddenly invaded by the species they had mocked as vermin. Move toward the palace, she ordered her troops. Non-lethal force, only unless fired upon. We are not here to slaughter civilians. The soldiers advanced through the streets. Some Vorath guards tried to stop them with primitive weapons, clubs, and blades, but they were quickly subdued. The humans moved with disciplined precision, checking every corner, securing every building. Councilman Braxis watched from his palace as his world fell apart. His advisors screamed at him, demanding orders, but he had none to give. Everything had happened too fast. One moment, he was the ruler of a great empire. The next moment, his defenses were gone, his fleet was disabled, and alien soldiers were marching toward his door. This is impossible, he kept saying. The humans cannot do this. They are nothing. They are vermin. The palace doors exploded inward. Human soldiers flooded through the gap, their weapons raised and ready. Braxis's personal guards tried to fight, but they were outnumbered, and Colonel Yuna walked into the throne room with a rifle aimed at Braxis's head. He cowered on his throne, his yellow eyes wide with terror, his scales pale with fear. Councilman Braxis, she said calmly, you are under arrest for incitement to genocide against the human species. You will be transported to the Galactic Council to stand trial for your crimes. You cannot do this. He screamed. I am a councilman. I have diplomatic immunity. The galaxy will destroy you for this. Yuna did not react to his threats. You have two choices. Come peacefully and face justice, or resist and die here like a coward. Either way, your reign of terror ends tonight. Braxis looked around desperately. His guards were defeated. His fleet was powerless. His empire had failed him. He lowered his head. I will come. Yuna gestured to her soldiers. Secure the prisoner. We are done here. The entire operation, from exiting hyperspace to capturing Braxis, took exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. Not a single human life was lost. The Vorath suffered minimal casualties, mostly soldiers who refused to surrender. Admiral Sunwoo broadcast a message to the stunned population of Varathis Prime as the human fleet prepared to leave. People of the Vorath Dominion, your leader threatened to sterilize our planet. He called our children vermin. He promised to reduce our world to ash. Today, humanity has answered. Your councilman will face justice for his crimes. We are not here to conquer you. We are here to show the galaxy that threats against humanity have consequences. Remember this day, and pray you never give us reason to return. The fleet jumped back into hyperspace, carrying their prisoner toward the Galactic Council. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species, every planet, every station heard the same impossible story. The humans had attacked the Vorath Dominion. The humans had captured Councilman Braxis. The humans had done what no species had dared to do. In 1,000 years of galactic civilization, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Every member species was required to attend. This was not a routine meeting. This was a trial that would determine the fate of interstellar relations for generations to come. Ambassador Jisoo arrived at the council station aboard a diplomatic vessel, but this time she was not alone. Behind her came the human fleet, 200 warships arranged in a defensive formation around the station. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission. The council chamber was packed. Species that had not attended a session in centuries sent representatives. Every seat was filled. Every screen was active. Every eye, regardless of shape or color, was focused on the central platform. Jisoo walked to the center of the chamber with calm confidence. Behind her, 4 human soldiers escorted Councilman Braxis in chains. His once proud posture was gone. His scales were dull. His eyes darted around the room like a frightened animal. High Chancellor Morix rose from his seat. The ancient being's many eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme agitation. "Ambassador Jisoo of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. "You have committed an unprecedented act. You have attacked a council member species. You have captured a sitting councilman through military force. You have violated the peace that this council has maintained for 1,000 years." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Many species nodded their heads or made equivalent gestures. "How do you answer these charges?" Morix demanded. Jisoo looked around the chamber slowly before responding. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. "I answer with a question, High Chancellor. Where in our laws does it say that a species cannot respond when threatened with genocide?" Silence. "Show me the treaty," Jisoo continued, "that protects those who promise to sterilize inhabited worlds. Show me the clause that grants immunity to leaders who call for the extinction of entire peoples." Councilwoman Lyris of the Andari Federation stood up angrily. "You are twisting the law to justify aggression. The Galactic Council exists to prevent exactly this kind of military action. The Galactic Council exists to protect all member species," Jisoo replied. 6 months ago, Councilman Braxis stood in this very chamber and threatened to reduce Earth to ash. He called 8 billion humans vermin. He laughed at our request for an apology. And what did this council do? She paused, letting the silence grow heavy. "Nothing. You did nothing." Not one species condemned his words. Not one representative stood up for humanity. You sat in your comfortable seats and watched as a member species was threatened with extinction. "Words are not actions," another councilman argued. "Threats are not crimes. You cannot attack someone for what they say." Jisoo turned to face him directly. Then let me ask you something. If I stood here today and announced my intention to destroy your homeworld, to kill every member of your species, to turn your cities to ash, would you wait to see if I meant it? Would you sit quietly and hope I was joking? The councilman had no answer. Humanity learned a long time ago, Jisoo continued, that when someone tells you they want to destroy you, you should believe them. We have seen what happens when threats are ignored. We have buried millions of our own people because someone thought dangerous words were just talk. She gestured to the soldiers to bring Braxis forward. The former councilman stumbled as he walked, his chains rattling against the floor. This is the being who threatened our children, Jisoo said. This is the leader who promised genocide. We are not asking for his death. We are not demanding vengeance. We are asking for justice. We want him tried fairly by this council for incitement to genocide. If you find him innocent, we will accept the verdict. But if you refuse to even hold a trial, you are sending a message to the entire galaxy that threatening humanity has no consequences. High Chancellor Morix leaned forward. And if we refuse? What then, Ambassador? Jisoo met his gaze without flinching. Then humanity leaves this council today. We will withdraw from all treaties, all trade agreements, all diplomatic arrangements. We will handle our own security, using whatever methods we deem necessary. And I promise you, High Chancellor, you do not want to see what humanity does when it feels cornered and alone. The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. Outside the station, the human fleet was visible through the massive windows, a reminder that these were not empty words. Councilwoman Lyris spoke again, her voice quieter now. You are asking us to set a dangerous precedent. If we allow one species to capture council members through force, others will follow. The galaxy will descend into chaos. The galaxy is already in chaos, Jisoo replied. You simply refuse to see it. Species threaten each other constantly. The strong prey on the weak. The only thing that maintains order is fear of retaliation, fear of consequences. Humanity has just demonstrated that threatening us has consequences. That is not chaos. That is justice. She took a deep breath and softened her tone slightly. We did not come here looking for enemies. 12 years ago, humanity joined this council hoping to find friends, allies, partners in exploration and discovery. Instead, we found indifference at best and hostility at worst. We were laughed at. We were dismissed. We were threatened with extinction while you all watched. Her voice grew stronger again. But we are still here. We survived. And now we are asking you to choose. Will you stand for justice? Will you condemn those who threaten genocide? Will you treat humanity as equals? Or will you continue to look down on us as vermin unworthy of basic respect? The chamber was absolutely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Finally, High Chancellor Morix rose to his full height. The council will vote on two matters. First, whether Councilman Braxis should be tried for incitement to genocide. Second, whether to formally recognize humanity's right to respond to existential threats with military force. The voting began. Each species cast their decision through their console, and the results appeared on the main screen in real time. For the first vote, the numbers climbed steadily. Yes, yes, yes. Species after species voted to try Braxis for his crimes. Even the Varth representatives, shamed and leaderless, voted yes. Final result: unanimous in favor of trial. The second vote was closer. Many species hesitated, uncertain about the precedent they were setting. But in the end, the numbers still favored humanity. Final result: 73% in favor. Humanity's right to self-defense was officially recognized. Jisoo allowed herself a small sigh of relief. She turned to face the council one more time. Thank you for your wisdom, honored members. Humanity came here seeking justice, and you have granted it. We hope this marks the beginning of a new relationship between our species and this Council, one built on mutual respect rather than fear. She paused. But let us be clear. Today's vote does not erase what happened 6 months ago. Humanity will remember that when we were threatened, we stood alone. We will remember who laughed and who stayed silent. And we will build our future accordingly. She turned and walked toward the exit, her soldiers following with Braxis still in chains. As she reached the door, High Chancellor Morix called out to her. Ambassador Jisoo, what happens now? To Braxis? To the Vorath? Jisoo stopped but did not turn around. Braxis will face a fair trial and receive whatever punishment this council decides. The Vorath will rebuild without him. And humanity will continue to grow, to explore, to reach for the stars. The only difference is that now the galaxy knows who we really are. And who are you? Morix asked quietly. This time, Jisoo did turn. She looked at the ancient chancellor with eyes that had seen too much suffering and too much joy, too much war and too much peace. We are humanity, she said simply. We are the species that refuse to die. We are the children of a small blue planet who dared to dream of touching the stars. We are stubborn and foolish and sometimes cruel, but we never stop fighting for our survival. Threaten us and we will remember. Attack us and we will respond. But offer us friendship, genuine friendship, and we will be the most loyal allies the galaxy has ever known. She smiled slightly. The choice is yours. And with that, she walked out of the chamber, leaving the Galactic Council to contemplate what they had witnessed. The trial of Councilman Braxis would begin the following week. He would be found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. But the real verdict had already been delivered. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was a force to be respected, and the galaxy would never forget it. 5 years had passed since the day humanity changed the galaxy forever. The universe looked different now. Old powers had fallen. New alliances had formed. And the small blue planet called Earth had become something no one had expected, a beacon of hope. For the oppressed and a warning. To those who would threaten the innocent. Councilman Braxis lived out his remaining days in a prison station orbiting a dead star. He had plenty of time to think about his mistakes. Sometimes he received visitors, historians wanting to interview him, journalists seeking the story of his downfall. He always refused to speak. What was there to say? He had called humanity vermin, and they had proven him wrong in the most spectacular way possible. The Vorath Dominion did not survive his capture. Without their strongest leader, the empire fractured into dozens of smaller nations. Some chose democracy, others simply collapsed into chaos. A few tried to rebuild the old ways, but they quickly learned that the galaxy no longer feared them. The Vorath were just another species now, no better and no worse than anyone else. Ambassador Jisoo had been promoted to High Ambassador, the first human to hold a senior position in galactic governance. She spent her days mediating disputes between species, building trade networks, and quietly expanding humanity's influence throughout the galaxy. She was old now, her hair completely white, but her eyes were still sharp and her mind was still quick. On the anniversary of Operation Falling Thunder, she gave a speech that was broadcast to every human colony and translated into 1,000 alien languages. 5 years ago, she said, standing in the Great Hall of the United Earth Government, we faced a choice. We could accept humiliation and hope that our enemies would forget about us. Or we could stand up, fight back, and demand the respect we deserved. We chose to fight. And we won. She paused, looking out at the crowd of humans and aliens who had gathered to hear her words. But victory was never our goal. Peace was our goal, Justice was our goal. A galaxy where no species is threatened with extinction simply for existing. That was our goal. And while we have made progress, we still have far to go. Admiral Sunwoo had retired after the operation. He said he was too old for war, but the truth was that he had seen enough violence for one lifetime. He spent his final years teaching at the Naval Academy on Mars, training the next generation of officers who would protect humanity's future. His last lecture became legendary. Cadets recorded it and shared it across every human world. Even some aliens studied his words. The galaxy thought we were young and weak, he told his students, standing in front of a window that showed the red deserts of Mars stretching to the horizon. They measured us by our years and found us wanting. But they forgot something essential about humanity. He walked slowly among the cadets, looking each one in the eye. We do not just survive. We overcome. We do not just adapt. We advance. When enemies burned our cities, we rebuilt them stronger. When plagues killed millions of our people, we found cures. When our own sun threatened to fade, we reached for other stars. That is who we are. That is what we do. We never, ever stop fighting for our future. He stopped at the front of the room and smiled slightly. Remember that, cadets. Remember it when times are hard. Remember it when you are afraid. Remember it when someone tells you that humanity cannot succeed. Because we always have. And we always will. Captain Do-Hyun had been promoted to admiral after the operation. He commanded Earth's first expeditionary fleet, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. His ships patrolled the borders of human space, ready to respond to any threat. But Admiral Do-Hyun hoped he would never have to fight again. He had seen war up close. He had watched enemies die. He understood the cost of victory in a way that few others could. The best weapon, he often told his officers, is the one you never have to use. Our fleet exists to prevent war, not to start it. If we do our job right, no one will ever attack humanity again. And we will never have to attack anyone else. Colonel Yuna had left the regular military to lead the new, peacekeeping corps. Human soldiers now served throughout former Varth space, helping local governments maintain order and rebuild their societies. It was hard work, often thankless, but Yuna believed in it deeply. We are not conquerors, she told her troops. We are helpers. The Varth civilians did not choose to threaten Earth. Their leaders did. Now those leaders are gone, and ordinary people need assistance rebuilding their lives. That is what we do. We help. Her corps became famous throughout the galaxy. Species that had once feared humanity began to see them differently. Human peacekeepers were fair, honest, and surprisingly kind. They did not exploit the people they protected. They did not demand tribute or submission. They simply helped, and then they left. Dr. Yoonji won the Galactic Science Prize for her quantum disruption technology. She was the first human to receive the honor, and the ceremony was broadcast across 100 worlds. But she did not rest on her success. The day after the ceremony, she was back in her laboratory, working on something new. Science never stops, she explained to a journalist who asked why she did not take a vacation. There is always more to discover, more problems to solve, more ways to improve life for everyone. That is what drives me. That is what drives humanity. We always want to know more. Her next project was even more ambitious than the Prometheus device. She was working on a way to generate unlimited clean energy using quantum principles. If she succeeded, it would end poverty and scarcity throughout the galaxy. General Myran had been promoted to Secretary of Planetary Defense. She oversaw all of Earth's military forces, from the smallest patrol ship to the largest dreadnought. Her job was to keep humanity safe, and she took it very seriously. But she also understood that true safety came from more than just weapons. It came from alliances, from diplomacy, from making friends instead of enemies. So she worked closely with Ambassador Jisoo to build relationships with other species. "Strength without wisdom is just violence," she said during a strategy meeting. "We proved that we can fight. Now we need to prove that we prefer peace. That is the only way to build lasting security." On Earth, life went on as it always had. Children went to school. Farmers grew food. Artists created beautiful things. Most people did not think about galactic politics very often. They trusted their leaders to keep them safe and focused on living their lives. But they knew, somewhere in the back of their minds, that they lived in a different universe now. A universe where humanity mattered. A universe where their children could grow up without fear of alien threats. A universe they had fought to create, on the moon Luna. In a small memorial garden that overlooked the Earth, there was a simple stone plaque. Tourists visited it every day, humans and aliens alike. It commemorated the day everything changed, when a small species stood up to a great empire, and the plaque read, "They called us vermin. They threatened our children. They laughed at our offer of peace. They learned." And below that, in smaller letters, "Humanity remembers. Humanity endures. Humanity prevails." Species from across the galaxy came to read those words. Some came out of curiosity. Some came out of respect. A few came to remind themselves not to make the same mistake Councilman Braxis had made, because the galaxy had learned an important lesson 5 years ago. Humanity was small but not weak. Humanity was young but not foolish. Humanity was peaceful but not passive. Threaten their children, and they will hunt you across the stars. Insult their dignity, and they will make you regret every word. But offer them friendship, genuine friendship, and they will stand beside you against any enemy. That was the truth of humanity. That was the legacy of Operation Falling Thunder. That was the new order of the Galaxy. High Chancellor Morix in his final speech before retirement summarized it perfectly. "We ancient species thought we understood the universe," he said, his many eyes looking tired but wise. "We thought we knew all the patterns, all the possibilities. Then humanity arrived and proved us wrong. They showed us that courage matters more than age. They showed us that determination matters more than size. They showed us that any species, no matter how young, can change the course of history if they refuse to give up." He paused, and something like a smile crossed his ancient face. "Welcome to the galaxy, humanity. You have earned your place among the stars. And I suspect you will continue to surprise us for a very long time." The galaxy kept spinning. Stars were born and died. Civilizations rose and fell. But through it all, humanity endured, just as they always had, just as they always would. Forever and ever, until the last star burned out and the universe grew cold. Humanity remembered. Humanity endured. Humanity prevailed, and the galaxy would never forget it.